Hello, my name is David Broussard and welcome to the Office 365 Bootcamp. In this episode, we're going to talk about Office 365 groups. Now, groups in Office 365 actually comprise many purposes. They can handle security, they can handle email distribution, and they can also allow for collaboration both inside of Office 365 and in other Office 365 workloads like Yammer and Teams. They all share the same name, so it can be confusing. Let's take a look at what we have. If we go to the admin interface and we go off of the home area, we'll have this area that's called groups. When I open this up, you can see that I have both groups and shared mailboxes. Let's talk about groups. Inside of groups, if I want to create a group, I can click on Add Group. When I add a group, I have four options. One of the options is to create an Office 365 group. Now, an Office 365 group is something that we've talked about on the business side. It is a place for people to collaborate and communicate. It provides an email inbox, it provides a shared calendar, it provides a file repository, and actually an entire site collection that includes a OneNote notebook and a planner that's all associated with it. This is where people can go and do ad hoc collaboration inside your organization. A distribution list is exactly what it sounds like. We use those in Exchange all the time. I can create distribution lists, I can add people to it, and if somebody sends an email to that group name, that distribution list name, everybody will get that email. I can also create what's called a security group. Now, a security group can be replicated from my on-premise Active Directory through Azure AD and into Office 365. So if I already have existing Active Directory groups that I'm using for security to handle access, this is a great way to have those Active Directory groups sent into Office 365 so that they can be used in things like SharePoint to go ahead and control access to different items inside of Office 365. I can also take that security group and I can make it mail enabled. And what that does there is it's kind of like a distribution group and a security group married together. I can send email to the group and I can also use it for securing. So let's go ahead and go through a few of these things. I've gone ahead and created a mail enabled security group as an example. So I have this one called DCB Test Message. You can see that it has a group ID, dcbtestmessage@catsystemo.com. If anybody sends an email to that email address, then all of the members of this particular group will actually get an email. As you can see right now, there's only one member, me. If I want to add a new member, I can come over here to the edit area. I can go ahead and add, and I'm going to go ahead and add my good friend, Jeff. And there's Jeff Dalton, and I've added him now as a member to this particular group. Now, if somebody sends an email to this particular DCB test message group, everybody in that particular group will get that email, okay? If I need to go into the Exchange settings, I can actually click on that and it will actually take me over to the Exchange Administration Center where I can look at all of the Exchange aspects about this, like its display name and its alias, its email address, any notes about it. I can even hide this group so that people won't be able to see it. They'll have to know. I can actually modify the ownership over here. I can modify the membership over here, so I can do it in both places. I can choose whether or not the owner has to approve people who are requested to join the group. I can actually go out and set up delivery management rules on this. So I can say only senders inside my organization can send email to this particular address. Or if somebody sends it from outside the organization, can I go ahead and track it? I can decide whether or not messages that come to this group have to be approved by a moderator before they're sent everywhere, and I can define who those moderators are and users who don't require moderator approval before the message is actually posted. I can even go down here and decide how I want the emails to be sent out and other email addresses that I want to have. And I can even go out and put in a mail tip when people are sending email to this group, and it can say things like, allow a certain amount of time to get a response back. I can even delegate the group to somebody else. So that's an example of a mail-enabled security group. Same thing is true of a distribution list. What's nice about this group is, in addition to having that email address and all of the distribution list aspects of it, I can now use this group to control security inside of other aspects of Office 365, like OneDrive for Business or SharePoint Online. I can then go out and in SharePoint Online, I can say, hey, I want to share files with, and if I type in DCB test message, it will actually appear inside of the dropdown, and I can select that, and then all the members of this group will then be granted access to that file. That's what security groups are used for. Office 365 groups are a slightly different thing. I can go ahead and choose to create an Office 365 group. What this will do is create an ad hoc collaboration area. And so we'll call this O365 Bootcamp from the name of my group. And it's gonna take that same name, it's gonna shorten all of the spaces out of it. I can change it if I want to. You can notice that I can choose which email address, in this case it's not letting me. It'll go ahead and put the group ID in here, which is the name shortened down. I can change it if I want to. That's the email alias that's going to be used by the group. I can give it a description, so this will be the group for the O365 Bootcamp. And then I can choose what level of privacy I want this to happen. If I make it public, then anyone in my organization can see the content inside of this particular group. I can also make it private, which means that only members of the group can see the content inside of here. It's up to you to decide which one you want to do. Every group can be different. One of the advantages of making groups public is that you don't have to then explicitly grant access. It is important to recognize that people have read access to the group. They can't make any changes to things that are inside of there until they become a member. So I'll leave this one public. Everyone can see it, but only members can go ahead and change it. I'm going to go ahead and choose that I want this to be the language to be English, and I'm going to select the owner. And so I'm going to go ahead and say that I want myself to be the owner of this particular group, and I want to send copies of group conversations and events to the members' inboxes. What that means is any emails that are sent to the group or events that are added to the calendar will be sent to the inboxes of all of the members. They can turn that off if they want to. But this allows them to actually participate with the group via email and also for events to show up in their calendar. So I'll go ahead and add this group. It's going to go out and create the group. Now what's happening in the back end is it's actually creating a SharePoint site called O365 Bootcamp as part of this group conversation. So I'm going to have an email inbox, I'm going to have a calendar, and I'm going to have a SharePoint site that's all going to be created as part of this particular group. So we'll go ahead and go to that group. Now one way to get to it, probably the easiest way to get to it, is actually to go to my OneDrive or my email. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my email, and I'm going to go to Outlook. And what happens is in my web access is you'll see that it lists all of the groups over here in my folders area. And here's my O365 Bootcamp. So when I click on that, I can actually get to this particular group. And it takes me there to start with. It puts me in the conversation area. Now, what's actually happening behind the scenes, right? There is an email address that has been shared by everybody inside of here. I can add more members from here. I could do that from the administration console as well, but it's actually easy for me to go over here now and say, hey, I want to add a new member. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to add my good friend Jeff again. And I'll go ahead and add him to this particular group. And if I want to make him an owner of the group as well, once he's added, I can actually very easily add him as an owner to this particular group. So now that Jeff's been added, I can actually go ahead and make him an owner just simply by clicking on the ellipsis or the open menu button and say make him an owner, and I promoted Jeff to an admin and he has full rights over this group as well. Now, what's happening behind the scenes, you'll notice that I'm in outlook.office365.com, right? I'm actually looking at this group. It's actually a mailbox, right? And all of the members can go out there and look at this mailbox. Same thing is true when I go and click on the calendar. It's actually going to go out and show me this calendar along with my calendar and other groups that I'm in so I can see what's going on. But if I go over here and click on the files area, it's actually going to go out and show me these files as well. Now, at this point in time, it's actually showing them to me inside of the Outlook view. If I click on Browse Library that has a little SharePoint icon next to it, when I click on that, it's actually going to take me to the SharePoint site collection that it is built for this particular group. Now, this is important for us to remember as administrators. Whenever anybody creates an Office 365 group, it is creating a site collection inside of your tenant. You won't see these inside of the SharePoint administration console, right? They are hidden, but they all exist. And the way you'll find them is if you look up here, it's catsysdemo.com/SharePoint/sites/group name. And once it puts me inside of here, I'm actually looking now at all of the site collection areas, and I can even get to the settings of this particular site and all of the site contents for this particular group. This is a site collection. It starts out with just a documents library and all of the things it needs to have that are part of a normal site collection. But if you'll notice, I have a new button, and I can create my own lists, my own pages, my own document libraries, my own apps, and even my own subsites. Yes, I can actually create sites underneath my group if I want to. I'll call this Bootcamp Group Test. And I'll just call it Test down here. And you'll notice that I can go ahead and make this a team site if I want to. Permissions, use the same or not. Do I want to display this in a quick launch? I'll say yes, and I can say create, and it's actually going to now create an entire SharePoint site underneath my original group site. Now, will I see that if I go back over to the group area? Nope, I won't really see it over here, okay? But it is part of the entire aspect of this group. In addition to the site collection, the notebook actually lives inside that site collection. I can also use these connectors. Now, this is important for us as administrators to remember as well. People can go out and actually use these connectors that Microsoft provides. For example, Twitter. They can actually add this particular connector and then go out and grab tweets from the Twitterverse and bring them inside the conversation aspect of this particular group. So you'll be able to go through and actually look at all of these things that are out there and decide what connectors you want to allow. Also, you can even build your own connectors if you really want to inside your organization. The last thing to notice down here is that you notice you can still get to Planner, which is something that allows people to actually manage tasks for their organization. That planner is associated with this particular group, which means it's part of that site collection. And then, of course, you can always get to the site in and of itself by simply clicking on the site button, and it will take you to this site collection. And now you can see I'm actually looking at a SharePoint site at this point in time. So that's Office 365 groups. You can see they can be used for security, they can be used for email communication, and they can be used for collaboration. Understanding the differences between those three types of Office 365 groups will help you manage your Office 365 tenant significantly better. Thank you very much.